Nothing else, dear. In your world, revolves around fear. And heartbeat a cold, reckless fire. And heartbeat a death desire. And heartbeat a cold fire. world enveloped by fear. No choice seems quite clear, and it is always so near. No choice is quite clear, and all falls into fear. All falls into fear. No choice is quite clear, and all falls into fear. No choice is quite clear, and all falls into fear. It's hard with the human desire to get lost in the fear of fire. Every choice leads you lower, not higher. Every choice leads you to your own desires. Your heart lies dear, and your world devolves around fear. You in desire, you got enveloped in the fear of fire. And no choice is gonna get you any higher. You're gonna devolve into your own human desire. There's thin ice dear. The bottom lake is warm when you have fear. That's the bottom of the lake, my dear. And that's more than what you have fear. Lake, my dear. And that's more than you have to
This is Van Electric Ghost. This is our continuing series of song deconstructions. So we continuing to interview artists, and last night we interviewed Skeleton from Los Angeles, a DJ and dubstep electronic music producer, and we were very excited to talk to her, and we would like to talk to more EDM and DJs. We're thinking of bringing back our DJ Leonada interview that we did on Experiment and putting that back out. So we're probably going to do that in a couple of days. But this whole conversation is about a song we wrote about 2 days ago. And sometimes what we do is we go through, some of the pads we have on our Juno GI and kind of feel what we would think about like taking a pad name and creating a song from that pad name as the title of the song. So there's a pad on a Juno DI called Thin Ice, and then we started thinking about, well, what would that mean when we're talking about thin ice? So, the literal kind of allegory to thin ice is, you're taking risks and you're gonna fall and you're gonna crash, and then we kind of take the idea that there's something more to fear than the bottom of the lake, and that basically is, if you're skating on thin ice, then there's something in your in your whole embodiment of your personality of what you're doing with your psyche that you're gonna fall apart. You're gonna have a hard break. And in this song, we what we did is we did a kind of combination of Josephine and Phantom voice by changing the mix level on our VTO3 vocal transformer to kind of have both voices come out. And we've done this in a couple of tracks, but we felt with this particular song we wanted the Phantom vocal to be there kind of have the foreboding of the Phantom. And what's the primary tone is the thin ice pad from the Juno GI. It kind of is reminiscent of like a Juno 106 Jupiter 8 type of pad. It's very full, very powerful, and kind of evokes like the heavy new wave synth tones that a lot of people want, off of a Prophet 5 or 6 or the Jupiter 8 themselves. And so we're very interested in trying to get that kind of sound. We think the kind of bargain way to get, a Jupiter 8 sound is to get a System 8. The new reality of trying to get the Jupiter, the Prophet 5 sounds is to get a Prophet 6. And then you have the ability, you get an OB6 from sequential. And now, Dave Smith Instruments is now finally sequential again, which is, big happy clap for that because we love DSI. We don't have any DSI gear, and we're kind of torn because the way we write, we like to do a lot of piano. And the Moog One is a great synth and it has a lot of power, and we love doing a lot of pad and a lot of experimental sounds. But the Moog One would put us deep into that, and we haven't heard a Moog in that space for 30 years. I've talked about that. But the Prophet X still is a valuable instrument because if you like to play piano like me, and you're somebody that wants to have those samples, having the ability to run them through analog processing and then have the DCOs, and it's half the price of a Moog One. So it's a valid thing. If you want to have a Steinway, if you want to be able to have really good piano sounds, a Kronos or an FA08 or the actual Prophet X is the type of synth you want to look at. Um, you know, so I think that's kind of leaving me in a situation where I have my Juno DI piano, but it's not where you get the kind of piano you get off on a Prophet X or even a Kronos. So I got to make a decision. I have a lot of synthesis capability, within my Juno, and a lot of the other devices I've been using, like my Moog Mother 32 and Arturia and a Mini Brew 2S. So I was able to get a pretty fat sound using digital delay on a Juno, running it through my workflow, giving it some heft. But because I like to play piano again, the Prophet X is still like a valid instrument out there. In a best of all worlds, you want an X and you want a Moog One. So I think Prophet and Moog can live together in that each of the companies does have a certain signature sound and capabilities that as an artist, as a keyboardist, as a producer, you could utilize both instruments. Just the Moog is kind of like really pushing it in terms of its structure and its innovation in terms of its interface. Looks like a very user-friendly interface. The screen is a lot more significant than what you see on the Prophet. Though the Prophet probably doesn't need it in the way it's built, but I do appreciate what Moog has done in terms of the workflow. And then watching a couple hours worth of the Moog presentations on the Moog One, it looks very innovative. It looks like a continuation with the Kronos and FA08 um, have done, but it looks like it's from a Moog standpoint, they've done some really cool things of using the keyboard itself for input, the ability to have notes, the fact that patches are not numbered, they're named, and you can have all kinds of categories and save things. There's a large amount of memory for setting up your stage sets and your tones. And we haven't seen an analog synth have this level of sound development capability and sequencing in a long time. Go back to the Phantoms, they had a lot of capability. Sometimes they even had keyboards, hooked up to them. So there was a lot of cool stuff going on with those. And the Kronos has continued that kind of functionality in FA08s, FA06s, all those models have the capability of doing a lot of music production. But just the sound design of the Moog and the fact that it's using these new oscillators that appear to have the ability to transform into any kind of wave shape, even though the primary wave shapes are square and triangle. It looks like you can get to everything. You get to sine wave, you can get to sawtooth, you can get to every possible type of wave with these type of oscillators. So it's a different concept in the oscillators, and the oscillators have multiple ways to filter them and combine them. I've heard some people criticize the fact that for the 3 cents, there should be a separate mixer section on the keyboard that allows you to have a knob per function over the combination of the 3 cents. I think you can kind of do that from what I've seen in the description through the touchscreen. Seems to have ability to do it in a pretty user friendly way. I understand people like having the knob per function, and maybe there's an additional device they could create, kind of like what Roland did back in the day, and have an additional set of knobs as a programmer to control the 3 cents and other things that aren't there as an additional feature that you could kind of prop up and put up on the synth and have additional controls. Theoretically, it's totally possible to do that. Because Roland did that for some of their designs. I think on the D50, they had like a ability to do that, or the JXP888, I think had that kind of capabilities. That'd be kind of cool. We are very excited about our OPZ that's going to be coming, and the OPZ is a revelation in multiple things. Is the smallest workstation in the world. That's a hardware machine. The ability to control lights at a show, ability to create video, to tie to your music, and very innovative step sequencing um, with a lot of bells and whistles that we haven't seen. And I'm very excited to see what I can do with that device. And I think the other excitement, as a keyboardist, which I've mentioned a bunch of times, is the Roland Axe Edge, which is a phenomenal machine. Uh, and I know a lot of people like to criticize Roland and the plastic nature of some of their synths, but they're dead reliable. And if you're going to do a show, having something that's heavy is hard to move. So it kind of goes toward the Moog One is a great machine, but you can't really lug that 45-pound thing around to gigs without having a big road crew. Having a System 8 or Juno is easier to move and less prone to being blown away or not working because you messed something up when you moved it. So there's a place in the world for lightweight synths that are affordable to be able to gig. And Roland's are not just lightweight; they have a lot of capability. Now, I've been using my Juno GI since 2008, and a lot of what Phantom Electric Ghost is comes from the Juno. And I have the System 8 1M as well, and the JDXI and the MX1. So I'm a Roland guy to a large degree. I've been looking to get a polysynth to give me a different tone. So like what I've been talking about is like the Prophet X and the Moog and even the Korg Prologue they're in my radar to being able to augment my Juno. I really don't foresee actually not using the Juno, but I guess like if I had a System 8 or I brought in probably the Prophet X would probably totally I would not need the Juno anymore if I got the Prophet X. But if I got the Moog One, I think I could still need it for the piano. Um, so Prophet X would, if I the one keyboard solution for my current rig setup and that one slot on my rig, and you've only got one slot to replace, and you want to be able to do analog programming and you want to be able to do, digital instruments that you need to have for your tone. The Prophet X kind of gives you that. Um, but the Moog One, you know, that would justify getting another stand and just putting it next to me like Vic Wakeman. So, yeah, that just shows my hero worship for Vic Wakeman and Keith Emerson, Bernie Worrell. They're my heroes. And, there's a lot of cool music being done that doesn't come from that kind of space. The kind of, virtuoso keyboardist is not really looked upon as an entry level requirement anymore. That you can do a lot of stuff in FL Studio. You can do a lot of stuff. Um, in the DAWs, but I still have a soft spot for keyboardists to actually play the keys. And this year with the Prophet X, the Moog Grandmother, the Prologue, and the Moog One, we have a really good year for keyboard players. Even a Waldorf Quantum. There's so many great keyboards being introduced this year. It's kind of like if it's like the DX7 and a Jupiter, 106 all come out in the same year. It's kind of incredible that we've got this kind of scene for electronic musicians. And I would say to the young folks that spend thousands of dollars on DAWs, that if you look into getting something like a Prophet X or a Moog One, you will be really um, impressed with what you could do to your mix with a real synth. Um, and I understand there are folks that are going to always gravitate toward the digital workstation, but if you ever get your hands on any kind of Moog or analog synth or Eurorack gear, I've seen a lot of new DJ electronic artists integrating Euroracks into their DAWs. I think it's something that you got to look into because it will differentiate your sound and give you an endless source of things without having to buy plugins. And yeah, it's heavier and harder to move around, but in your home studio, it's to me is like if going forward in music, having the ability to understand subtractive synthesis or additive synthesis will just increase your chops and open up, ability to work on soundtracks, ability to do collaborations that are not just EDM collaborations, but full electronic music that's beyond just EDM, which I was stressing over and over again. I think learning how to use a keyboard, whether you're going to be a virtuoso or not, just gives you the overall structure to build a song in a way that you can't do on the DAW. Um, though some people probably argue you can do everything on a DAW. I would say there's some things in terms of trying to play jazz type of compositions or kind of free, um, progressive type of music. It does require the ability to play a keyboard at some level, and that's why you see a lot of DAWs integrated with MIDI keyboards. Um, so that's my little soapbox for now. Um, we're always looking to talk to people from multiple genres. We're hoping to talk to actors and actresses and poets and directors, even people who own music labels to want to interview their stable of artists. So if you're interested in that type of thing, give us a ping on Anchor with a voice memo, favorite our podcast, and get in touch with us, and we can talk to you about interviewing people on your label or your collective or even collaborations. And of course, we are fan supported, and so if you could look at our 99¢, 4.99, and 9.99 support levels, we can keep on doing what we're doing. And we appreciate all the fans who've been listening to us. We're at 1.4K on the listens now, moving up. And thank you again for your support. This is Family Electric Ghost signing off.